Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, giving you my Week 18 2023 NFL predictions. Well, for the Fanatic this week, first of all, Happy New Year! Happy 2024! Unbelievable that we are at the 2024 mark of the season, or mark of the year. And with the new year, we are near the end of this 2023-2024 NFL season. What an absolutely crazy season it has been this entire year. So many good teams emerged, so many bad teams emerged, so many teams had runs that objectively have made so many playoff teams viable. So many teams viable at this point in the last week of the season. But this is what makes the NFL great. But I do want to wish everyone out there a happy and successful and positive 2024, 2023 for a lot of people. There were highs and lows every year, and when you get to a new year, it's always great to rebound, readjust, realign, and rededicate to a bunch of goals. And I hope everyone out there that watches achieves their goals and dreams and accomplishments. So, but for the Fanatic, though, going into the new year, though, the way New Year's Eve ended, my 2023 was a fantastic way to end for my predictions. So last week against the spread and straight up, I went 9-6-1 against the spread and 13-3 straight up. I did mention in my video that I was going to take the Houston Texans -3.5, but I forgot to. It crossed my mind on Sunday, so since I didn't actually put out an official update, I'm going to give that loss to me. For the 9-6-1, but that equals 59.4% against the spread this week and 13-3 straight up, which equals 59.4% against the spread and 81.3% straight up. Through 256 games this season, I am now 124 and 125 and 7 with 7 pushes, and straight up now I'm 156 and 100, which equals up to 49.8% against the spread and 61% straight up, or 0.609. I'm going to round it up. Or 60.9% straight up. So, definitely with the last 16 games, so this is the hardest week to pick every year. It's going to be hard to determine exactly how the games go. But with everything going on, I do think it will be hopefully a great way to end the regular season with a very successful against the spread straight up week. And I'm hoping to finish the year definitely against the spread above 500 against the spread. I'm not sure how confident I'll be in doing it. But I'm going to do the best I can in that regard. So, I'm just going to go through the picks, and I will be brutally honest. This week, it's really hard to get excited or mention key stats about certain factors. I'll talk about each game, but this video should be much quicker, because usually I go through a lot of stats. I do have a couple numbers for a couple games, or I'll talk about the importance of the more important games. But some of them I'm just going to talk about just the idea of what the situation was throughout the year. Because there are plenty of games now that have no implication either for the teams that are locked in their spots or they're out of the playoffs. So it's not really. So this video should be fairly quicker than a lot of the previous videos that are about an hour. This should be about 20-30 minutes, hoping. And then next week, I do want to say that with the playoffs, with the shortened schedule, the postseason, the videos will be coming back out again for the postseason on Mondays throughout the rest of the postseason. So I just wanted to make that clear for everyone. So, all right, so let me go directly into my picks for this week. So on Saturday, when the 9-7 Pittsburgh Steelers travel to Baltimore to take on the 13-3 Baltimore Ravens, the Pittsburgh Steelers are 3.5-point favorites in this game. Give me Baltimore here plus 3.5, but Pittsburgh straight up. Then the next Saturday night game for a playoff spot. This is a huge game. When the 9-7 Houston Texans go to Indianapolis, they go to 9-7 Indianapolis Colts. The Houston Texans are 1-point favorites in this game. Give me Houston here -1 and Houston straight up. Then the next game, when the 10-6 when the 11-5 Cleveland Browns go to the 8-8 Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals are 6-point favorites in this game. Give me Cincinnati here straight up, but I'm going to take Cleveland +6. Then the next game, when the 7-9 Minnesota Vikings travel to Detroit to take on the 11-5 Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are 3-point favorites in this game. Give me Detroit here -3 and Detroit straight up. Then the next game, when the 9-7 Jacksonville Jaguars travel to Tennessee to take on the 5-11 Tennessee Titans. Jacksonville Jaguars are 5.5-point favorites in this game. Give me Jacksonville here, -5.5, and Jacksonville straight up. Then the next game, when the 6-10 New York Jets travel to New England to take on the 4-12 New England Patriots. The New England Patriots are 2.5-point favorites in this game. Give me New England here, -2.5, and New England straight up. Then the next game, when the 7-9 Atlanta Falcons go to New Orleans to take on the 8-8 New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints are 3-point favorites in this game. Give me New Orleans here -3 and New Orleans straight up. Then the next game, when the 8-8 Tampa Bay Buccaneers go to Carolina to take on the 2-14 Carolina Panthers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 5.5-point favorites in this game. Give me Tampa Bay here -5.5 and Tampa Bay straight up. Then the next game, when the 7-9 Chicago Bears travel to Green Bay to take on the 8-8 Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers are 3-point favorites in this game. Give me Chicago here in one of my 3 outright upsets of the week. Give me Chicago here +3 and Chicago straight up. Then the next game, when the 8-8 Denver Broncos travel to Las Vegas to take on the 7-9 Las Vegas Raiders. The Las Vegas Raiders are 2.5-point favorites in this game. Give me Denver here +2.5 and Denver straight up. Then the next game, when the 11-5 Philadelphia Eagles go to New York to take on the 5-11 New York Giants. The Philadelphia Eagles are 5-point favorites in this game. Give me Philadelphia here -5 and Philadelphia straight up. Then the next game, when the 8-8 Seattle Seahawks travel to Arizona to take on the 4-12 Arizona Cardinals. The Seattle Seahawks are 3-point favorites in this game. I'm going to take Seattle here straight up, but give me Arizona +3. Then the next game, when the 10-6 Kansas City Chiefs go to Los Angeles to take on the 5-11 Los Angeles Chargers. The Los Angeles Chargers are 3-point favorites in this game. I'm going to take Kansas City here +3 and Kansas City straight up. Then the next game, when the 9-7 Los Angeles Rams travel to San Francisco to take on the 13-3 San Francisco 49ers. I'm sorry, the 12-4. When the 9-7 Los Angeles Rams travel to San Francisco to take on the 12-4 San Francisco 49ers. The San Francisco 49ers are 3-point favorites in this game. Give me the Los Angeles Rams here +3 and the Los Angeles Rams straight up. Then the next game, when the 11-5 Dallas Cowboys travel to Washington to take on the 4-12 Washington Commanders. The Dallas Cowboys are 13-point favorites in this game. Give me Dallas here -13 and Dallas straight up. And then finally, in the last game of the year, game 272, when the 10-6 Buffalo Bills travel to Miami to take on the 11-5 Miami Dolphins. The Buffalo Bills are 3-point favorites in this game. Give me Buffalo here -3 and Buffalo straight up. Alright, it's time for very quick thoughts on each game. The Pittsburgh Steelers over the Baltimore Ravens. Look, this is a game to where Mike Tomlin has already announced that Mason Rudolph is starting for Kenny Pickett once again. And I think this is a death nail for Kenny Pickett's career. Because objectively, if Mason Rudolph has won the job off performance, this means that they have no longer any faith in Kenny Pickett long term moving forward. I actually feel like if you look at this scenario, Kenny Pickett and Daniel Jones are in the 2 worst quarterback competitions possible. Even though Daniel Jones might get the job because he's starting, but there is nobody, no fan that's not, besides his family or just a Kenny Pickett blind enthusiast, that genuinely believes that the Pittsburgh Steelers and New York Giants should just hand deliver or just give the starting quarterback jobs going into 2024, going into next season, to Kenny Pickett and Daniel Jones. Because look, the Steelers had 468 total yards of offense in the game against Seattle. That's the most they've had since 2018. Also, I'm going to shout out Mike Tomlin for his 17 consecutive non-losing season, third longest streak, and the longest streak to start a career. Najee Harris had a season high in attempts and yards, and they held the ball for 14 extra minutes compared to Seattle. And George Pickens, in the 2 games he's played with Mason Rudolph at center, 163 yards receiving per game. That is a massive difference for the Steelers. And for the Ravens, look, Lamar Jackson had a perfect passer rating. The Ravens are going to be actually the first defense in the NFL to hold, to be number 1 in points per game defensively, sacks and turnovers. Zay Flowers has the rookie receiving record for the Ravens, and the Ravens have won their last 4 games against playoff teams fairly convincingly. And objectively for the Ravens Steelers is always close. And objectively with the Ravens, they don't know who's starting. So I think, could the backups beat Pittsburgh? Yes. Ravens Steelers, throw the records out the window. I always say this every year if you watch my videos consistently. This rivalry doesn't matter. The record doesn't matter. But I will take the Steelers because they will be trying. I just think if for the team's health, I do think they win, but I'll take the 3.5 because I can see this coming down to a game-winning field goal by Boswell. It always usually comes down to about a game, 1 or 2 plays always in this rivalry. So, no matter who's starting. So, that's why I like the Ravens here, plus 3.5 at Pittsburgh straight up. The next game, the Houston Texans over the Indianapolis Colts. Look, the Texans have had a fantastic job this year. They have righted the ship. They have found a very good coach in D'Amico Ryans that I believe will carry them forward. Sheldon Rankin scored his first career touchdown. The Texans defense held 4 straight opponents to 80 or fewer rushing yards, and it's the first time since 2015 the Texans swept the Titans for their season series in the regular season. So that's incredibly impressive. And Will Anderson, the Texans rookie, has set a rookie record with 7 sacks. And the Colts, look, 4 consecutive first-year head coach for the Colts have had winning seasons. They're 3-2 this year when they hold opponents to under 100 rushing yards. And the Colts just have fundamentally played solid football. And in this type of game, when you look at the Colts and Texans have a better defensive squad. Colts have the better offensive line. The Colts are a bit healthier. The Colts are at home. When you look at the game, it's about an even matchup. The Colts won in week 2, but that was with Richardson going down with concussion, and Minshew played most of that game, so he knows his Houston defense. And in this type of game, where what you've seen throughout the year, I'm going to go with the better quarterback. Always these tight games, you usually go with the better quarterback, you're usually going to win. So that's what I'm going with here. It should be a great game. I think for everybody out there, I would tell anybody this. Whoever loses this game and is out of the playoffs, that team should be the team with Richardson coming back. Even though I know Richardson is very raw as a passer, and we don't even know what he is as a quarterback due to the injuries being suffered in week 1 to 4. We don't know, but I would say whoever loses is the team that everybody should put their wagon on to make the playoffs next season. Whichever team. Because I believe that's where both these teams are. It's great that they're playing each other, but I do feel like the loser will have the most upside out of any AFC team in the playoffs to make a deep run. But in this game, rosters are about the same. Texans have a bit of a better defense. Colts have a better offensive line. Skill positions right now are about even due to the injuries. Running games, the running games are about the same too. Moss being out there for Indy is huge, but in this type of game, you go with the better quarterback, and I'm going to take C.J. Stroud to beat Gardner Minshew this time, especially with what we've seen out of Stroud the entire year. So that's why Houston, you're -1, Houston straight up. The next game, the Cincinnati Bengals over the Cleveland Browns. This is one to where I think the Bengals, they're going to play their backups. They're going to push through them. And I think the Bengals win the game because I believe Cleveland's going to rest a good amount of their starters. I don't think Joe's going to play. I don't think Ford should play. I don't think Cooper should play. I think Njoku should play. Garrett should play. All their key, I think they all should rest. And look, I want to shout out Joe Flacco. First Browns quarterback in NFL history to have 4 straight games of 300-plus yards passing. The Browns defense has been dominant. I'm going to shout out Ronnie Hickman for scoring his first defensive touchdown. Myles Garrett's had 6 or 7 consecutive years with 10-plus sacks. He's been dominant. Jim Schwartz is going to be the assistant coach of the year, easily in my opinion. I think this defense has carried this Browns team through the entire year. Stefanski's going to be coach of the year. Schwartz should get assistant coach of the year because he has been the Jim Johnson to Kevin Stefanski's Andy Reid, because that defense is carried, and honestly, out of every team in the AFC playoffs, regardless of seeding, I think the one team, there are 2 teams in the playoffs right now that I objectively believe could beat every team in the playoffs, and and that is the Baltimore Ravens and the Cleveland Browns. Those are the 2 teams that I objectively feel like you could put them up against any playoff team, any combination you want in the playoff ESPN predictor. The Browns and the Ravens are the only 2 teams I feel like could go into any of their stadiums, or they come into our stadium and the Browns stadium, and they could win the football game. It's that simple, in my opinion. So again, I'm going to take Cincinnati here. I don't expect Cleveland to play a lot of starters. If they do, I'll take Cleveland to win, but I just don't expect that, and I think Cincinnati's backups are just a bit better. And they're at home, and usually Cincinnati's played better against Cleveland at home in kind of a weird, meaningless way. So that's why Cincinnati here straight up at Cleveland +6. The next game, the Detroit Lions over the Minnesota Vikings, same thing. Like, the Detroit Lions, look, they played very well. Jahmyr Gibbs, Laporta, Campbell, like, their offensive line's been sensational. They played a pretty much nip-and-tuck game with the Dallas Cowboys. They got gypped. They got hosed by the refs. And shout out to Half Moon's Picks. Happy New Year, buddy. Happy belated birthday and best of luck with your surgery. But shout out to Half Moon's Picks. Like, it's frustrating. Lions fans, every time they go to Dallas, it does not really end well, objectively. And I think that when you look at this Lions team, they were probably the better team. They ran the better play. The only problem I had with everything that went on Saturday night was Dan Campbell should have kicked the extra point. After the first try was nulled, he should have kicked it from the 7, and then when Micah Parsons got the offsides, he should have kicked it from the 2. At that point, you win the game. He also should have kicked the field goal at the end of the half to make it 6-7 instead of 7-3. That point differential, as early in the game that could be hugely important for the end. I know that's the butterfly effect, but still, I would have kicked the field goal at the end there to make it a 1-point game. Sometimes getting points is more important than going for the aggressiveness and getting touchdowns and driving up scores to insane levels. So, and with Minnesota, it's just an unfortunate year. They put up one of their worst defensive performances on New Year's Eve night against the Packers. Jordan Love had probably the best overall game I've seen him have probably since week 1. He was just shredding the Vikings defense up from pillar to post. And I was incredibly surprised by it. And I just feel like with the Vikings, they have no quarterback. Kirk Cousins has never been more popular in Minnesota than what's happened over the last several weeks since he tore his ACL. Because we've seen Josh Dobbs, Nick Mullins, and Jaron Hall now go through a series of games to where all of them had their flashes and all of them had their faults, but it just ended up for the Vikings to be just a horrible year. I think O'Connell should get some heat for it. He's not going to get fired, but Kevin O'Connell has shown you that through his quarterback problems, he's kind of got the Midwestern Arthur Smith vibe, to where, like, if he doesn't have a quarterback, he doesn't trust any of them, and he'll go to them like, toilet paper on, after eating Chipotle. And I think, that's a problem. And I think the biggest problem is the fact that I'm taking the Lions where they can start Bridgewater and a bunch of their backups. I have enough confidence in Bridgewater and the backups at home to beat the Vikings, who are going to try to play, but, I don't think they're going to be that successful. So that's why Detroit here -3 and Detroit straight up. The next game, the Jacksonville Jaguars of the Tennessee Titans. This is one again to where the Titans, they look like they, gave up another inept 3-point performance. Will Levis got sacked and had a decent foot injury. He rested 2 games ago due to an ankle sprain. I don't think he should play. Let Tannehill go out there for his last game as Tennessee Titan at home and try to spoil the Jags. The Jags did well. ETN had a second best rushing game of the season. Ingram played well. They shut out the Panthers with their first shutout since 2017. And also it's the first time since 97 and 98 that the Jags have had back-to-back winning seasons as a franchise. So testament to them. Kudos to them. And the reason why I'm going with Jacksonville, honestly, I would just say this. I would start CJ Beathard again. I think the Titans have basically packed it in. They have Jeffrey Simmons on the IR. He's not going to be there. Most of the defense isn't that great anyway. I think the Jags, should be able to run the ball a little more effectively. I think they could, Beathard can make some plays with his legs. And I just feel like Doug Peterson is coaching a team that understands the mission because they still need to win the AFC South. If they don't, then the winner of Colts-Texans gets it. And I think just with everything going on, everybody knows that Jacksonville has the better roster. They have better talent. They're playing for something. And I just feel like with Vrabel, it's a tough pill to swallow. And I think he should have possibly been fired, but they're going to keep him. But I think next year, with what's going on, it's not going to work out, I think. And I do think he gets fired next year because I do not see a very bright future for the Titans moving forward. So that's like Jacksonville -5.5 and Jacksonville straight up. The next game, the New England Patriots over the New York Jets. I'm going to shout out Garrett Wilson very quickly. He's the first Jets receiver to go 1,000 yards in his first 2 seasons. That's incredibly impressive. And, the Jets, they played an okay game against the Browns. Simeon made mistakes. He had the bad pick 6. But the Jets also did cause 3 other turnovers, which is impressive. And objectively, when you look at this game, look, the Patriots have had their worst year under the Belichick era. Couldn't run. Bailey Zappi turned into Mac Zappi, or Bailey Jones, or Bailey, it's like, half face, half thing, to where, the Patriots still were bad. Chad Ryland, after bombing a 56-yard kick right down the middle, he misses a 47-yard kick that could have changed the whole momentum of the game. And in this game with the Jets and Patriots, look, they're all packing up. They all have different aspirations. This could be Bill Belichick's final game as a Patriots head coach. Robert Saleh and them are just salivating to see Aaron Rodgers, the ex-Green Bay Godfather, come back and actually be able to play in a preseason game or a meaningful game. And in this type of game, with really nothing going on, the only thing that the Jets have pride on is that they've lost the last 15 consecutive home games to the New England Patriots. And just in this way, just when you have the talent even, the defenses are basically even in talent, confidence, you're always going to take Belichick over Saleh. I have through this entire time, and I haven't been proven wrong yet. And I think if Bill Belichick ends his career as a New England Patriot, I think that team and that fan base will celebrate beating the Jets one last time to give Bill Belichick his last win as a Pats head coach. So, that's why I like New England here, -2.5 and New England straight up. The next game, the New Orleans Saints over the Atlanta Falcons. This is one to where the New Orleans Saints, they played pretty well. Derek Carr had one of his more efficient games. He's played fundamentally solid football. The Saints defense was fantastic. They held Baker to about 60 yards passing through about 3 quarters. He threw some decent, near garbage time TDs to make it, the score more respectable. And I just watched Atlanta. And Atlanta is just a bad football team that Taylor Heineke has a wrist injury. They could go to Desmond Ridder. And I think this game is a meaningless game because I objectively, like I said, I think Tampa Bay wins. So Tampa Bay gets the division. I think New Orleans is still going to play for something because there is still a path for New Orleans to possibly get in the playoffs. I think they would need Green Bay and Seattle both to lose, which is possible. But, at the end of the day, look, the Falcons are a bad football team. The Falcons still have to play too because if the Bucs lose and the Falcons win, the Falcons will get to win the division. I just feel like they got fortunate with Derek Carr pick 6 last time, and that was with Ridder. I don't think with Heineke it's going to get that much better. Or, well, it looks like Heineke might not be able to go, and it'll be Desmond Ridder starting, and I think that's just a kiss of death for the Falcons, especially with the motivation from earlier in the season going on home. I think the Saints put a nice fundamental rear end kicking on the Atlanta Falcons. So that's why I like New Orleans here -3, New Orleans straight up. The next game, Tampa Bay Buccaneers over the Carolina Panthers. Carolina, worst team in the league, season low in yards. Abject disaster with Bryce Young. Abject disaster. I think he is much better than what he's shown, but boy, is his bar not that high. I am thinking for Bryce Young, he is going to have to make decent to significant gains with whoever coach wants to take that pathetic, piss-poor franchise with their drink-throwing owner, David Tepper. And with his impulses and everything all with the sort. But I'm taking Tampa here. Tampa, they beat Carolina in a field goal game a few weeks ago. Baker didn't play that well. He didn't need to. But I think Baker and that offense has played fundamentally well consistently. But I think if they go to Carolina in an empty stadium with 10 fans in it, they should be able to grind down a dominant victory and to give Todd Bowles his second consecutive NFC South Division title, which nobody was expecting when the year began. So, shout out to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers there. Shout out to Baker. I will say this, Baker, great job. Best of luck to you. I just want to tell everybody out there, because I have a couple words and a couple games about, there was a quarterback that got benched there were multiple quarterbacks that got benched last week before I knew. But I just wanted to say that Baker Mayfield was making $4 million this year. And he's had a very good year. But I just want everybody out there that's a Baker fan, I'm going to be bringing 7 to 8 times the heat if he signs a $45 million contract. A $40 million contract. If you put a 0 next to that, Baker Mayfield can't have the year he had. He can't. He was paid $4 million this year. He was a better version of Gardner Minshew, who gave you probably just as good a production, or decent production on $3.5 million. That's why Baker's gotten all this praise and very little heat. He's made $4 million. Put a 1 next to that, put a 2, a 3, a 4, 5, or 0 next to that. Baker Mayfield's going to have to do a lot more to justify a $40 million contract, unless you think he's Daniel Jones, which, okay, fair point, that's an answer. But still, I just wanted to point it out there. Baker has some stuff there. But, again, the Panthers, team's done. Team's been done for about 6-7 weeks now. Just get these season over with. I think Tampa wins easily and clinches their second consecutive NFC South title. Job well done. Sounds like Tampa Bay here -5.5. Tampa Bay straight up. The next game, the Chicago Bears over the Green Bay Packers. This is one to me to where I'm taking Chicago based on the defense. I think the Packers have played very well. Jordan Love has put himself into a conversation after his 4 total touchdown day, that he is the Packers quarterback moving forward, hands down. There's going to be no competition, or there's going to be no threat to Jordan Love going into next year. I think he should play the year out, because we want to see how he does, but I do think Jordan Love is in line, if he plays as well he did his first year and he gets a few more wins, for a significant contract extension, because he will have earned it. But the reason why I'm going with the Bears is not because of quarterback play, because Justin Fields has put the Bears in a very awkward spot to where they have the number 1 overall pick, but Justin Fields has played very well, and you can either talk about trading Justin Fields, drafting Marvin Harrison, or drafting or trading away the number 1 pick for a huge haul of future picks, but is it worth it? That's the question I have, and that I don't know. But I'm going to take Chicago here because Matt Eberflus has changed that defense. Matt Eberflus has that defense balling. Matt Eberflus has been dominating consistently. And I think, again, and there is a report now, and I've said this to people, I said this in my videos, and I feel like I got this one right. Matt Eberflus is probably coming back as Chicago Bears head coach, and I know there are plenty of people out there that disagree with it, but I honestly thought if he had an 8-5 finish to get to an 8-9 record, if it was a 16-game season, if it was a 500 record, that's exactly what you want to see from a second-year head coach. Now you give Justin Fields another year, you give him the 4th year, you put in his 5th-year option, you bring in Marvin Harrison with DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, the offensive line that they're building, Roscoe Jenkins, Khalil Herbert. Like, you have some pieces there that if Justin Fields balls out, this Bears team can genuinely be a playoff team and genuinely compete for the NFC North with the Lions and the Packers moving forward. So, and I think at the end of the day, the Bears defense holds, and the Packers go home, leaving the door open for Seattle to get the 7th spot. So, that's like Chicago here +3 and Chicago straight up. The next game, the Denver Broncos over the Las Vegas Raiders. This is one to where Denver, they decided to bench Russell Carrington Wilson. And just very quickly, I personally don't get it. I think what this whole scenario is, it's purely financial. This is my opinion. And I'm a Russell Wilson fan, so just object. So you could say I'm being... But this was all purely financial. Nobody can tell me that Jarrett Stidham is fundamentally better, or to use Sean Payton's word, a spark. He did not spark that offense. That was the biggest load of you-know-what that he spewed out of his mouth. Because if you watch that game, any Broncos or Raider fans that are, if you watch that game, I was watching the same exact thing. You know what it was? It's that idiotic meme of the one guy that's in the sweater vest, and his gift is a sweater vest. That's exactly what you saw. It was Russell Wilson opening up a sweater vest to Jarrett Stidham, which is the exact same thing. Okay? And I'm not, so, again. But for everybody out there that took the Chargers, did anybody know who they were playing? They were playing Easton Stick, for crying out loud. Good Lord, like Easton Stick, who almost beat the Bills and put a bunch of garbage time here. He's not Jarrett Stidham. Jarrett Stidham last year objectively almost beat the 49ers. He almost did it. He put up the 3rd most passing yards, and his offense put up the 2nd most total yards against the number 1 defense in the NFL. And everybody idiotically, I thought, was like, oh, we're going to go with Easton Stick because we don't know if Jarrett Stidham's better than that. Yeah, everybody. He is better than Easton Stick. He's not better than Russell Wilson, in my opinion. He's not. But Easton Stick? And there were plenty of people, media figures, that just flipped to the Chargers. They're like, oh my God, catastrophe. Look, I don't like how the Broncos have treated him. I don't like how they treated Russell Wilson. I think there's been a lot of shady, underhanded business crap. And if you want to hear all the, media narratives of, oh, well, it was on performance, I cry bull. Oh, the play, it was meant to be a spark, I cry bull. There was a lot of bull around the Bronco organization this week. And again, now we have to watch Stidham play again. But objectively, everybody, and I know the Raiders defense has been balling. They played well. But Antonio Pierce now could be under 500 as the head coach of the Raiders. And with the news about Jim Harbaugh, I objectively believe that if Jim Harbaugh takes the opportunity with the Las Vegas Raiders, he should be the head coach of Antonio Pierce. If Stidham wins, Antonio Pierce, I'm sorry, with a 4-6 record after the last 10 games, does not deserve to be the head coach of the Raiders. I do think they should move on. If Antonio Pierce wants to stay, that's his prerogative as a linebacker coach or defensive coordinator. But if he goes 4-6 and loses to Stidham with Aiden O'Connell, with Adams, with a better offensive system and a much better defense, I think that is going to be just kind of the end of Pierce's story. He was a great story, great coach. Would love for him to be defensive coordinator, move up the ladder instead of being the linebacker coach. But I think, for the Raiders, they're going to go on to a bigger and more proven fish. And for Sean Payton, good luck with the spark. Or let me give Sean Payton some credit. He fundamentally said yesterday, oh yeah, we're not going for a spark. Or, well, if that spark happens, it may not. So we're just gonna ignore all the bull crap all that crap that you just spewed out last week. But that's my thoughts on the game. It should be a competitive game. Could the Raiders win? Sure. But I'm gonna take Jarrett Stidham and the better defense once again, to win the game in Vegas. And also that, by the way, that would snap a 7-game losing streak the Broncos are currently against the Raiders anyway. So that's why Denver here plus 2.5 and Denver straight up. The next game, the Philadelphia Eagles over the New York Giants. This is one to where I think the Eagles just have more talent. I know Tyrod played a very good game. He objectively should have won that game. He basically played Stafford nip and tuck. Stafford threw 2 horrible interceptions. And objectively, I think the Giants could compete, but the Giants offensively, though, were very bad. But the Eagles defense giving up 15 passing touchdowns. And I just don't think Tyrod with those weapons will continue to play that well. And at the end of the day, I think the Eagles have continually beaten the Giants in this spot every year. And I think with the Eagles knowing what's on the line, they'll play a good enough game to cover and win at least by a touchdown to cover the game. So that's like Philadelphia -5, Philadelphia straight up. The next game, the Seattle Seahawks over the Arizona Cardinals. This is one to where if Pete Carroll... Look, I took Arizona +3 because Pete Carroll, everybody... Man, you had a 6-2 or 6-3 record, and you're to 8-8? Wow! And now you don't control your destiny. And even if the Packers lose, could you believe that the Seattle Seahawks may lose to Kyler Murray and the Cardinals? Just for fun fact, though, the Cardinals have now beaten the 11-5 Cowboys, the 11-5 Eagles, the Falcons, who nobody cares about, and they beat the 9-7 Steelers. That's their 4 wins. Again, you would like to have seen other wins to carry around, but, this Cardinal team with Kyler Murray is not going to be a joke for the Seattle team. Seattle's defense has been below average the whole year, and Kyler Murray can make plays that Geno can't, and I think Kyler, in this home spot, he would love to spoil the Seahawks' postseason aspirations, leaving the Rams and Niners in off technicalities. And I'm taking Arizona +3, but at the end of the day, I think Geno will bounce back. I think this defense will play better. And objectively, I just think Pete Carroll outcoaches Gannon to possibly secure that last spot, where they'll be rooting for the Bears as the game goes on. So that's like Arizona here +3 and Arizona straight up. The next 2 games, Chiefs over Chargers, Rams over 49ers, rest games. Chiefs aren't playing for anything, and I think the Chiefs' backups are better than the Chargers. And Rams-Niners, same thing, rest games. McCaffrey's not playing. I don't think Purdy should play. I think every one of the significant stars should take a break. Let the backups play. I think the Rams, they're going to rest some starters too. And at the end of the day, if you're having a bench game like this, give me the better rosters. And the better roster in Chiefs-Chargers is Chiefs. That's why I'm going KC here +3. And Rams-Niners, where the rosters, the Niners have more talent, but depending on how much they sit. But if you're going to give me the better quarterback, Carson Wentz or Sam Darnold playing in this game, I'll take Carson Wentz every day of the week and twice on Sunday to beat Darnold in this game. So that's why I like the Rams here +3. That's like the Chiefs here +3 and the Chiefs straight up, and the Rams +3 and the Rams straight up. And in the final 2 games, the Dallas Cowboys over the Washington Commanders. The Washington Commanders have just mailed it in. Rivera's getting fired. They're cleaning up the whole house. Terry McLaurin doesn't really trust the franchise. I think he's regretting signing that extension, even though he's going to be there for a couple more years. He took the money. And the Cowboys, look, and to be fair to every Commander fan, they had an opportunity last time, even though the shoe was on the other foot. They were trailing the Eagles, and the Cowboys laid a massive egg. I don't think they're going to lay the massive egg this time, or nor do I think, even if they do, I don't think the Commanders can even respond due to that Cowboys defense. They were able to cover a 13.5 point spread last week against the 49ers. The Cowboys aren't the 49ers, but they're closer to the Niners than they're closer to the Commanders. So I'll take Dallas here, minus 13, and Dallas straight up for that reason. Just fundamental mismatch. The Cowboys handle their business, and they clinch the number 2 seed, where I believe they will play the Seattle Seahawks in the first round. And then finally, game 272, the Buffalo Bills over the Miami Dolphins. This is a game to where I just trust Buffalo's health, Buffalo's gritness, Buffalo's toughness, and Josh Allen's resume against the Miami Dolphins is basically sterling. He's only lost 2 times overall. 2 is dealing with shoulder injury. Bradley Chubb's out with an ACL injury. Waddle's out with an ankle sprain. And I think the Dolphins, they need to just focus more on getting ready for the Chiefs, in my opinion, than trying to win the division. Could the Dolphins win this game? Absolutely. The Bills, ever since that Cowboy game, the last 2 weeks have been mid at best. To where they essentially choked away. They almost choked it to the chokers. But they were able to get a field goal from Tyler Bass. And then after one half where Bailey Zappi and the offense gave you 4 turnovers and they put up 20 points, you put up 7 points the entire second half and let the Patriots crawl in within 6. Which is really bad. But at the end of the day, Buffalo has always used to play Miami very well. But this Miami team is incredibly banged up. And I just trust Josh Allen, even though he's dealing with some injuries himself, to run and play well against a banged-up Dolphins team. It doesn't knock the Dolphins out of the playoffs, but it puts the Bills at the 2, which means they will likely face, in my opinion, the Houston Texans, where the Dolphins get to go onto a trip to Kansas City in the other wildcard game. So that's why I like Buffalo at minus 3 and Buffalo straight up. And those are my picks for this week. So like, comment, rate, and subscribe. Please check out the NFL YouTube Prognosticators page, where you get to see a lot of other great prognosticators like Half Moon's Picks, Bridgewater's Finest, Johnny Brett Grecchino Sports. Check out Fire and Brim Sports. They do a great YouTube prediction. The Unpretentious Sport, I've seen him recently. The Goat House. Any of those guys and gals that make predictions like I do every week, please check them out. They're great content creators. They give you great analysis, they give you good predictions, and they're very interactive as well. So shout out to all those people. And best of luck to all players, coaches, fantasy players, and fellow prognosticators. This is the last week of the 18 season, of the 23 season, wrapping up my 10th regular season. Looking forward to the postseason, where once again I will tell everyone videos will be coming out once again on Mondays, Monday afternoons, due to the short amount of games, and I feel good about just doing my preparation. And until next Monday for Wild Card Weekend of the 2023-2024 NFL season, this is Matthew Fanatic signing off. Until next time, everyone, so long.